Welcome to Tech Notice. This over here is another PC build, and this one is very silent, and I call it the Silent ProArt. But how good is it on Premiere Pro live playback performance? And if you're looking to build like a mid-range or budget mid-range PC like this one, then you want to know how well does it perform on Premiere Pro if you're a video editor or so on. So let's look through tons of different codecs and see how well does it perform on Premiere Pro right after this.
Are you sick of seeing activate Windows message on your desktop? Well, it's time to activate your Windows and do it cheap. Go on to whokeys.com where you can find official license keys. If you're looking for Windows 10 Pro key, for example, then all you have to do is search for Windows 10 Pro, select the license and add it to the basket. Use the code TN20 to get a 20% discount. Once you have the license key on your email, click here, type in your license key, hit activate, and you're all done. Check out whokeys.com in the description below, and don't forget to use the code TN20 to get a 20% discount.
It's been quite a while actually since we built this one live. There's a lot of things happening, but let me remind you the specs of this PC. Now we are running quite a low-end Ryzen 5 5600X. It is the latest processor, but Ryzen 5 6-core 12-thread processor, and it's cooled by the Be Quiet Pure Rock Slim 2 cooler, which is actually a very budget cooler and is doing an amazing job. We're gonna talk more about that in a review. The motherboard for this build is the Asus B550 ProArt Creator board. We are running a 32 gigabytes of RAM, which is the Team Group T-Force DarkZ Alpha, and it's running at 3600 MHz CL18. For SSDs and storage, we have two SSD system. There is Kingston NV1 PCIe NVMe storage, which is 500 gigabytes, and that is our OS drive, and our project drive is the Kingston A400 SSD, which is 480 gigabytes. Our graphics card is RTX3070 Founders Edition. For power supply, we're running a 650 watt Be Quiet Pure Power 11 FM power supply, and our case here is the Be Quiet Silent Base 601, and our one doesn't have a glass on this side, but you can actually have a glass on this side as well. So without no further ado, let's jump right into this Premiere Pro timeline performance. And I've got this open over here as well, the task manager, so you can see the CPU and memory and different usage, so we can check how it's doing over here. 8-bit 420 first. This is 60 frames per second. I'm pressing play and it looks like it's playing back, no frames dropped. And as you can see, this is hardware accelerated because our GPU is doing most of the work over here. As you can see, this video decoding, it's playing it back over there. The CPU is basically sitting on idle, so that's that. Let's have a look at the timeline performance over here. Very, very good as well in that, just nothing bad to say. So if you're using any of the mirrorless cameras that have, 8-bit 4K footage, any of the mirrorless cameras, that is usually 420 is that's the case, and up to 60 frames per second, you can edit it back, no problem. Do 2 frames drops, I wouldn't worry about that because sometimes it does it, sometimes it doesn't. So have a look at that. Plenty of power over there. Now let's move on to 10-bit 420 and see if there is any difference. Because this is still 420, it is still hardware accelerated. As you can see, our GPU is playing it back over there, but it's not doing that big of a job because there is less frames to play back. This is 420 or 24 frames per second. And timeline performance as well, even for 10-bit, as you can see, we're playing back full resolution as well. It's no problem playing it back. So next off, we have the 10-bit 422, which is not hardware accelerated, and the GPU is not going to do much on this one. As you can see, it's sitting quite idle, but the CPU is doing most of the work because it's playing it back on the CPU. Now it's dropping 1 frame, but I would say it's still doing a very good job considering it's only a 6-core chip, and even the timeline performance, let's have a look here, obviously is a little bit slower than the 420 because that is hardware accelerated, whereas this one isn't, but I think it's doing a great job, honestly, like no problem. Now let's have a look at this one. This is 422 60 frames per second, okay? Let's have a look if it's dropping any more frames than that, because look at this, now the CPU is doing quite a bit of work to actually play this back. Let me change this to logical processors. So we can see how all of the cores are just working hard to play this back. But do you know what? Even the 422 is doing quite an alright job playing it back 60 frames per second. Look at that, not bad at all. Look at this. The GPU is just doing a little bit, but it's not doing video decode, as you can see, so the GPU isn't playing it back. The CPU is playing it back, but very good. 0 frames dropped, even at 10-bit 422 60 frames per second on Premiere Pro, which is one of the worst optimized softwares for video editing in the world. But look, even the timeline performance, it's absolutely great. It's very, very, very good. Now let's move on to RED RAW. So this is RED RAW 4K. So first of all, timeline performance. I mean, look at this. This is insane. I mean, RED RAW 4K is actually one of the easiest codecs I have ever tried to play back, because whatever system I put this on, it's usually quite easy to play back. Look, forwards and backwards, it works as fast as I'm moving my mouse, which is insane. Have a look at this. So what was doing the playback? A little GPU, a little bit of CPU. Now this is a little bit of a nutcracker. This is the Canon C200 4K footage, and it's a RAW, like 4K RAW, as you can see. So this is DCI as well, so Canon Cinema RAW. Let's start playing it back from here. So full screen, press play. Let's have a look what's gonna happen. CPU is 100% trying to play this back, and it's not doing a very good job. It's a bit of a cracky. As you can see, we are not playing back. We're dropping a lot of frames. The timeline performance on full isn't that bad actually. Like, it pulls it up quite fast, so you don't have to wait for it. I think the 422 was actually slower than this one. So if we put it to half resolution, let's see if we can play it back then. Looks like half resolution is what it can do and plays back quite smoothly. So you could edit the even Canon C200 RAW if you edit it on half the resolution. Moving on to 5K over here, I expect this to play it back no problem. Yeah, oh, 3 frames dropped. Are we still dropping frames? Oh, looks like we are dropping frames. Ooh la la, what is happening over here? Okay, CPU is absolutely maxed out, so looks like this is, like, the timeline performance is quite okay. It's a little bit choppy, okay, but if you press play, yeah, looks like it's 239. Yeah, it's struggling now to play back the 5K because just the CPU doesn't have enough power. As you can see, it's absolutely maxed out, and because RED RAW isn't on the GPU, or can't be played back on the GPU, it's quite slow. So let's have a look at this RED RAW. I mean, timeline performance is okay. This is 6K now. Let's press play. Let's see what it can do. Uh-oh, no. Yep, we're absolutely maxed out. So RED RAW up to 4K seems like the good choice to go over here. 6K and above can't do it. So let's have a look at the Blackmagic RAW 6K, see if that can do it. Oh, look at this. That seems to be very easy on the PC. 0 frames dropped. 0 frames dropped. 2 6Ks on top of each other playing back at the same time. Seems to have no trouble. Let's have a look at 3 6K clips on top of each other. CPU 87, 79%. Looks like it's doing a great job. So if you're planning to use Blackmagic RAW, that's no problem. But RED RAW is a little bit of struggling even on 6K. So now RED 8K, I don't expect this to play back any better. Actually, I'm quite surprised how well it still did there. If you look at the task manager again, let's have a look at the performance. I expect the CPU, yeah, absolutely 100% and playing it back. Yeah, it's like I wouldn't edit 8K if you're doing this. Like, anything now what we're testing is not really worth it, but just to show you, if you have some of this footage, if you can use it with this hardware, it can't really do it. Okay, Canon R5, timeline performance at half resolution. Let's be serious, you're not gonna put it on full resolution because it just can't do it. I bet it's probably not even gonna do it at half resolution. Yep, look at this. This is like a just complete slideshow. It's not actually properly doing it. Just the CPU is maxed out. The CPU is the bottleneck here, a 12K. Okay, might as well, you know, check it out because it's here. Pressing play, yeah, okay, nothing. So let's see if it plays back half resolution. 12K. Okay, it's lagging a bit. I wouldn't do it at half resolution. Let's try quarter. Do not. Quarter of resolution seems to be completely fine. Let's see between the clips if it manages to still... Yeah, look at that. Quarter of resolution of 12K. It's about 3-4K then, playing it back. Smooth as anything. No problem over here. So basically the conclusion for this system is that if you have anything above 4K, 5K and above, then it's not really playing it back on Premiere Pro as well over here. It doesn't matter the codec, the resolution is just too much for the CPU. But if you plan to do anything 4K and below, doesn't matter really which codec, it can actually handle it quite well, and you know, it's doing a very good job. Now this was Premiere Pro. If you want to see how these exact same codecs work on DaVinci Resolve, then I have finally actually done this DaVinci Resolve as well, so stay tuned for that. Next video coming out is on DaVinci Resolve. If you want to check out any of the parts of this PC, check them out below. I'm gonna leave them in the description below. Thanks guys for watching. Bye bye.